It's TEDA time.
Living in Terrebonne, living in Terrebonne. You sure won't want to miss it, and I'll bet that you'll revisit living in Terrebonne.
Local Terrebonne Parish economic news.
Hello and welcome to this edition of TEDA Time. I'm your host, Keith Whiteside. Thank you so much for joining us. However you may be joining us, we appreciate it very, very much. And we always have with us for TEDA Time, Mr. Cohen Guidry. Cohen B. Guidry. So very glad you're joining us today.
Thank you, Keith. Good morning. Good to see you.
All right, CEO of Terrebonne Economic and Development Authority. And next to him, my good friend, Tom Watkins. Tom, thanks for joining us today. We appreciate it.
Keith, thank you. We appreciate the opportunity to be here.
Of course, Tom does so many different things, but a legal analyst in South Central Planning and Development Commission. And so, Cohen, I know we talk about it all the time, but it's these partnerships that make a huge difference for helping TEDA really bring resources to people. South Central is one of those that y'all do that with.
Absolutely. And sharing programs, just getting the word out and allowing them to come on and share what their products and the many things that they have to offer. You know, I think a lot of people don't know the right places to go, and they start with us. And when we can help and direct, I think you use this as a segue to get the word out that there are good things going on out there.
And so when we need something, we just give a call to Cohen and see if he can't connect us to what's needed.
I bet you we can connect the dots.
That's
I may
right.
not know the guy.
Right.
I may not be the guy, but I probably know him. And if I don't, I will meet him.
Yeah, and I know that firsthand, and we've been able to do that. And so really glad to be able to do that. Tom, we're really glad you're joining us. Let's just talk a little bit about South Central and let people know kind of the overview of what the program is, who you are, and what y'all do.
Sure. Well, South Central Planning is a regional planning commission. That's its footprint, its geographical area is 7 parishes: Terrebonne, Lafourche, St. Mary, Assumption, St. James, and St. John.
It's a big area.
It's a very big area, and among the many things that a regional planning commission is tasked with doing, there are other things that we enter into, other programs that we enter into. We try to help manage with state partners and federal partners, you know, the various programs that come from those groups to get those programs and those resources out to the people.
Yeah, and again, like we talk about with Cohen all the time, it's really just trying to find the programs that fit that people need. And it's just kind of doing that needs assessment to see what the needs are.
Right. And that's one of the big deals about, you know, planning. Cohen knows, and many people, that, you know, if you have good planning, it assists with the development, particularly regionally, right? Because you have a lot of parishes that they, of course, have their own economic development requirements that they themselves have to manage. But we bring another element, another phase to it, if you will, from a South Central type of a standpoint, regional, trying to put everyone together so that we can develop regionally as well, and that helps the individual parishes develop too. So
it's kind of didactic in that sense that we're not only looking at the parish themselves, but we're also looking at part of the region and what the region needs. And God knows our region has been smacked pretty hard here of late, and just it's always trying to figure out if there are resources. How do we connect the people that need those resources? And there's a lot of different programs that do that, and just not everybody's kind of aware of that.
So, and that's to segue, if I may, into what we're gearing up for at South Central Planning.
Okay.
Is a very large small business restore program, right?
Okay.
So we all might recall some time back where there was the rumors that Louisiana was getting 1.2, I think it's 1.27 billion dollars.
With a B.
A restore program, right? And part of that group of money, that pot of money, we just sort of refer to it like that, is a portion of it, roughly $95 million, is going to be allocated to assist small businesses throughout the state that have that are in certain geographical areas that have been impacted by Hurricanes Laura and Delta, more in the western part of the state.
Right.
And Ida and the May 2021 flood that really damaged a lot of areas, not necessarily here, the floods, but more in the East Baton Rouge, Calcasieu Parish, and more the central part of the state. So there's money allocated for those 4 events: Laura Delta, to West, Ida, and the May 2021 flood.
And so again, these are some planning, and we know that it takes a long time when they say, hey, we think we're going to be able to get this money, to, hey, we think we've got this money, to figuring out a plan to how to figure out who needs some of that money. And it's about bringing businesses back, right? That's the whole perspective.
Right.
Is trying to help bring business back and being able to see how people can qualify for that. And so I know that that's part of that process. And as we close this particular segment, it's good to know that there are some people that are looking at what the options are for how we're doing that and getting some of that money. We'll talk a little bit about how this program, and it's still in its early development, right? Trying to figure out how we're going to do that.
Right, and so it's developed, pretty well right now.
Okay.
It's scheduled to kick off May 1.
Okay.
Keeping in mind this is the small business portion of it.
Talk about some of the players and how this process works, Tom.
Sure. So the funding mechanism of this program is through the Housing and Urban Development, HUD.
HUD,
I think
okay.
everybody in the world has heard about HUD.
Sure,
So
sure.
HUD has, through approval of Congress and other agencies of government, has brought this bucket of money, if you want to call it that, to the state.
Okay.
So once the money gets here, the Office of Community Development with the state is responsible at the state level for managing the processes and procedures and creating and confirming they're all being followed to get these loans out to those who need it. Well, in that part, OCD, Office of Community Development, they need help. They can't do it all, right?
Right.
And so they hire, I don't want to say hire, but contract, for lack of a better word, with entities such as ours, right?
Okay.
With respect to this Restore Small Business Loan Program, there are 4 entities that will assist OCD in rolling out the loan program to all of those eligible parishes and municipalities. And so South Central Planning, right, is going to be involved in a large part of the state. About 35 parishes.
Wow.
It's a big deal.
Yes, it is.
So the small business program is funded with $95 million.
Okay.
And that $95 million is divided into two segments, if you will.
Okay.
The Laura Delta segment is a $50 million funding, and then the Ida May 21 flood is $45 million. Now, we have been informed, and it's good for Ida, right? Terrebonne and Lafourche and River parishes, Orleans, et cetera. Those parishes are going to be in the Ida bucket. We've been informed, although it hasn't taken place yet,
Right.
that in addition to the $45 million, another $45 million is going to be coming.
Oh, my.
So $90 million is what we've been informed of is going to be set aside for the Ida May 2021 flood. Okay. South Central Planning's part of that is we have been designated to be able to loan out of that 45 initial funding for Ida, 25 million.
Okay.
So now there are other entities that are involved in this rollout.
Okay.
And the rollout, and so those other 3, excuse me, typically centered around the other entities, the New Orleans area.
New Orleans,
So,
okay,
but of the
right.
45, South Central has 25 to loan. On the Laura Delta side, we have $37.5 million to loan out.
Okay.
So that's how the money's more or less divided.
Okay. And again, it's one of those things where these monies have been approved, and now they have to make these decisions about where they go, and they've done that. Again, it still takes time.
Yeah.
It's a process, and I don't want to say it's a bureaucratic process, but we're dealing with bureaucracy of these funds being transferred and sent out, and
it's over $1 billion, right? And you have to be accountable for all that stuff, right?
And that's why the processes are the way that they are, and that's why they bring in qualified organizations and legal analysts and those people that can really look at those funds and really be able to track that and making sure it's going where it needs to go.
Exactly, and confirming that it's gone where it needs to go and that they're used in accordance with the program requirements. It takes people, it takes organization, and it takes time to build that level of capacity necessary to adequately manage and operate a program like that.
Yeah, and it's a lot of money. And quite frankly, there's got to be accountability for that. Even if it's $1, but when it's over $1 billion, there's a billion times more reasons to make sure that there's that accountability. Right. And there are limitations. There are limitations to what it can be used for and how people. And it's the process of trying to figure out who's available to get these funds.
Right. And so what we have done, right, and I want to reiterate again that South Central Planning's part of this is purely related to the Restore Small Business Loan Program, right?
Right.
And so that's that $95 million level of funding,
right,
split into the two regions, if you will.
Right, the 1545.
So that's what we're going to be handling and managing and hiring people and working with OCD to assist in the the management and following the protocols of the program.
Right. And you need someone with expertise like that. You need someone who understands that management process.
Right.
And some people who have the wherewithal to be able to do that. They're not asking social workers to do that, right? We're asking people with some good financial background and assistance, and that's where South Central really shines, to be able to partner to figure out how to do this.
Right. South Central's been in this lending program, the number of programs with the state and the federal government for years and decades.
Right.
So we got a lot of practical experience.
Many years. Talking about these monies that we're excited about with the Restore Louisiana Small Business Loan Program that's through and with Hurricane Ida, as Tom mentioned earlier, associated with 3 other different effects with Laura and Delta, with the flood, and these monies that have been set aside and identified to be able to help people. So let's talk a little bit about the loans themselves, Tom, and or maybe when people can't necessarily apply yet, let's talk about that process and where they can find out more information soon.
Sure. So what I'd like to do is talk about what the loan can do.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
So these loans, this is going to be the best loan you've ever heard.
Okay.
These loans are from $10,000 to $150,000.
Okay.
With an exception approved by the Office of Community Development, the loan can be as high as $250,000.
Oh my goodness! So an exception there between the 150 and 250 if it's
get
qualified.
approved by OCD, but they do approve them.
Sure.
Not every one of them, but they will approve them. These are 0% interest loans. The loan terms are 7 years, and if you pay back 60% of the loan amount, and you're not in default. In other words, you've otherwise been paying timely,
right?
The remaining 40% can be forgiven. So, if a company, just picking quick numbers, borrows $100,000, they pay back $60,000, they're not in default in the terms of their loan, they don't have to. The remaining $40,000 is going to be forgiven.
Wow.
Yeah. Think of it this way. Just think of it. You get $250,000.
Yeah.
You're not paying back $100,000. That's a good deal.
That's an incredible deal.
Yeah.
And again, it's for those businesses that have been impacted and have really suffered with problems because of any of these 4 things. But again, it's 0%. Loan amounts are $10,000 to $150,000, can be up to $250,000 with approval from OCD, Office of Community Development, and 0%, and if you're timely and you pay back 60%, the other 40%
Forgiven.
forgiven.
Forgiven. It's a deal.
Wow.
It's a deal. So, however, this
Yes.
program, it's not for the Exxons of the world.
Right.
These are for small businesses.
Small businesses, right.
That have been impacted and still impacted by the storms and still have unmet needs.
Right, yeah.
So, as an example, if you have a company that lost its stock, its inventory,
Okay.
but its insurance paid for that stock, well, you're not going to be able to double dip.
You've been made whole.
Right, and so this is designed for those businesses that have that need still.
Right. And again, that's why we talked a little bit earlier about needs assessment. That's part of the application process, determining if there is still a need.
Right. So-
and if there is, then we can address it.
Right, eligibility requirements. I want to say this is eligibility. I want to distinguish that from what you can use the money for.
Right.
Eligibility requirements. You have to have between 1 and 50 employees.
Okay.
Right. You have to have suffered. You may have suffered $10,000 in physical damages to your property. Right. That's an eligibility. If you do, you can apply. If you have lost 20% of your annual gross revenue, right?
Okay.
You can apply.
Okay.
So the eligibility requirements from the standpoint of being able to apply are going to be easy, but for a lot of people to meet.
Pretty loose, right?
But then there becomes the from the standpoint of what you can use those funds right. So the funds can be used as a general rule to cover your mortgage or rent payments.
Okay.
It can be used to pay for your utilities.
Okay.
It can be used to cover up to 6 months of payroll.
Yeah, because I had a feeling payroll had to be a part of that, but it's up to 6 months
Up
of
to
payroll.
6 months of payroll. So they'll calculate. There's a formula that's going to be used to calculate what that dollar amount will be based
Right.
on your returns.
Right.
And so they're going to go 6 months, and whatever that dollar amount is, that's what you can
You can use that
You can
for.
use that for.
Right.
The money can't be used to repair your building. Right. Can't be used for that. It can't be used to buy your business partners out. It really needs to be used from the standpoint of making your company fit to fix those unmet needs and get it operational so that it can help the community prosper.
It's about the business getting back to provide service to the community,
That's
right?
100% correct.
Okay.
So,
Very
Tom, I've
good.
got a question. I'm sorry.
Please, go.
If a business was whole before Hurricane Ida hit and they were forced to close, but they would like to come back and open their business, would that be eligible?
Absolutely. That's one of the neat things about the program. So if you have a business, I did shut it down, right? It was just so damaged. This program will allow you to come back, even if you're shut down. You have to prepare a business plan.
Right, you have to show that.
You have
right.
to show that you're going to be able to come back.
Right.
And this money can be used for you to help open up. And I will also say this as an additure, that you don't have to open up even in the same location. You can move to open up your business in any eligible area.
Right.
So you have some maneuvering room, right?
Some availability with
available.
that. Your website, Tom, put that out there if you don't mind.
It's South Central Planning.
South Central
Yeah,
Planning.
that's
Right.
southcentral.org.
And soon there will be
on that
tab
website,
that they
right,
can find
there's going to be a
review
way that you'll be able to link in and apply for this stuff online.
Everything
the
online.
application online.
Very good. Gentlemen, I appreciate your time today. Thank you for helping share this information and always the partnerships that TEDA provides. We appreciate that.
Our pleasure.
All right,
Thanks for
very
having
good.
us.
That will do it for this particular edition of TEDA Time. Don't go anywhere. A lot more local programming right here on HTV.